28.56. Car on your left. Got wheel damage. Got wheel damage. Your rear wing is damaged. Spot of loss and downforce. Watch for oversteer. Car on your left. Got damage in various places. That aero damage is probably slowing you a lot. That aero damage is probably slowing you a lot.
Hey everyone, my name is Drew. I am the founder of Falcon Autosport. I am a racing instructor, track day instructor, track day organizer, and racing driver for a variety of series here in Canada. I've driven several real world races, and I wanted to go over a sim racing event that I just did, the iRacing Bathurst 12-hour special event. I was part of the Peak Motorsports team. We drove the Ferrari 296 GT3, and that was a disaster. I I think the race was going to go pretty well. You know, we were involved in a lap one crash where we were ended, no problem, nobody's fault there. But that put us in the lower 20s of positions, right? We were not 48th, not last, but we were towards the back, and I was starting to work my way back up. I had made my way back up to 21st position when I was crashed out of the race by another driver from another team. That I think iRacing has a problem. I think not iRacing as a company, but iRacing as a community has a problem where if you are going to take part in one of these 12-hour races, you are going to at some point be taken out by somebody who just doesn't give you respect on the racetrack. And I think that the community needs to realize that if you're going to share a racetrack with somebody for 12 hours, maybe it's not worth crashing them in the first 6 hours, because that's another 6 hours that they can just spend ruining your race, right? And if you've given up 20 hours of practice before this race that some people do, and 6 hours of your time of driving in the car up until that point, and you get crashed out like by somebody who just doesn't give you the respect of braking at a reasonable brake marker, and they just crash you, and it's not fair. But I understand that there's nothing that iRacing can do directly to try to prevent crashes. Crashes are going to happen. What I'm taking issue with is the fact that I think that that was quite intentional. And I did protest the driver, and the driver did have coaching notes added to their account based on the outcome of my protest. So even iRacing, they don't think it was intentional in this case overtly, but they do think that if it's a pattern, if this happens even one more time, they may have to take action against this driver because the driver was driving maybe not intentionally recklessly, but recklessly, and just didn't respect their competitors, which that's not the move, guys. In a 12-hour race, you know, I didn't revenge punt them. I'm not that person. I'm not that guy. I'm not the type to do that. But somebody somewhere is going to be that person. And if you crash the wrong person, you are going to have a very bad time. So don't just look at not crashing in the 12 hours being like, oh, well, you know, we should avoid our incident points because we don't want to drive through. No, if you're going to share the track with somebody that is very mad at you for the next 12 hours, you're going to run into issues. You know, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be something that you need to consider whether or not you think that it's worth the risk of them being that person that might revenge hunt you, might spin you out, might crash you, because people like that exist. You know, I see it all the time when it's not a special event that people will crash each other out, they'll revenge hunt each other. And you just have to consider, am I about to throw a 12-hour race away for 5 seconds of, you know, a faster overtake or less? Because, you know, while I'm some guy with a cat that's about to jump into my lap, um, maybe I'm the guy that's patient enough that nobody's going to be taken out by myself in a revenge punt kind of a thing. But if somebody is that kind of a person, if somebody is that, you know, that kind of a bad attitude person, they're going to take you out, and it's going to be basically karma. Now, the driver that took us out in the Bathurst 12-hour, they finished ahead of us. They finished, I think it was, they were on for P15, but one of the drivers disconnected on the second last lap with the packet loss. And They lost one or two positions. I think they ended up finishing P16 just because of that. And I just remember laughing at myself and saying karma, because I think that was very inappropriate that they took us out like that. I think that was not appropriate from them at all. But do you know what? Like, that's not right. It's not on. You don't take you out somebody that you're battling for position. If that person's P21 and you're P22 and you are just trying to overtake them, make it clean, because that person could easily choose that is the day that they're going to risk the iRacing ban and revenge hunt you. I'm not that person. I'm not going to do it, but somebody somewhere is going to be that person, and you're going to pay the price. You know, I don't want to encourage it, but I want to discourage people from crashing because I know that somebody out there is going to do it. That's an iRacing problem, in my opinion. That when you're in a 12-hour race, the community is gonna, if they get into a small fight, they're going to just wreck each other and wreck each other and wreck each other again and again and again, because it's 12 hours that they can wreck each other for, right? At the end of it, yeah, there's going to be bans. Probably everybody involved would be banned by that point. But I got to tell you, man, if I'm in a good position in a 12-hour race, that I'm one lap behind like P10 because of a crash that happened on lap one that we were rear-ended, I think I wouldn't take that risk. I wouldn't throw away the opportunity that we could finish eighth, because the pace that I had and the consistency that I had, I would have been easily top eight. With the pace and consistency that I had, I was holding on to the leader. For the last 3 hours of the race, I was on pace to the leader, right behind them in the slipstream. We did fuel stops at different times. We'd come out the fuel stop, and I'd be right behind them again. And so I ask you, if that's the situation, if you are in a battle where fuel mileage is going to be the deciding factor about whether you finish like sixth or eighth or 10th, is it worth taking out somebody and crashing them and ruining their race and having the risk that they ruin yours in retribution? No. The community needs to recognize that the risk associated with being involved in a crash in iRacing is not right. It's not worth it. Just be smart in these 12 hours, 24-hour races, because you're going to make enemies that way, and enemies are going to react the way enemies do. You're not going to like it, right? So I wanted to bring that up because you can see in the clip how angry I was. I chose peace, but I know that a part of my brain said maybe I should show them what it's like. I chose against it because I'm an adult, because I'm responsible for my actions, because I'm mature, because I didn't want to ban, because I knew that would happen. But let's be real. Somebody out there is going to have a worse temper, right? We're talking about the general public. We're not talking about people who are aware that they have a racing license in the real world, such as I have, where they're going to choose, oh, I shouldn't do that. That would look really bad. That would look really bad on my business. That would look really bad on my racing license. Even if I'm wrecking people in the sim, that would look bad on my racing license in real world. Somebody out there is going to decide, nope, it's worth it for me. That person's going to learn a lesson today. Somebody out there is going to do that. You are the deciding factor about whether you are involved in a retribution wreck or not, by not even causing the wreck in the first place. Okay, so when I'm saying what I'm saying right now, what I'm talking about is you guys need to behave yourself, right? It's not going to end well for you if you go around wrecking everybody, okay? And I know this team only wrecked me, and I don't know why they singled me out, what I did differently to deserve it. I don't think anything. I think that they just made a mistake. So I decided to not get the retribution. Like I said, I protested them. iRacing added the coaching notes, so if they do it to somebody else, they're going to be in trouble. And that's not going to be a me problem. I'm going to have, by that point, washed my hands and said, you know what? It's on them. Maybe the way that some other people would say, it's in God's hands right now, right? I reached a new level of Buddhist nirvana there during that race, where I had reached a point of anger that I didn't think I was going to be able to control, and I did. I'm proud of myself for that. But 14 minutes of repairs, that's a long time to be sitting in the car thinking, like, man, if that person hadn't done that, I wouldn't be in this situation right now. I wouldn't be in the pits. I would be in 18th place, battling with people on track with fuel efficiency and pace. I would be ahead of these guys because they just crashed. I would be ahead of those guys because they just crashed. I would be ahead of those guys because that guy just disconnected and lost a lap with the packet loss. oh, those guys just blew their engine. I would be looking at every position that would be farther up. But instead, I'm hearing vroom, 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 every car going past me when I'm in the pit lanes, just waiting for repairs, just watching the guys around the car doing the repairs and thinking, like, I would rather be out there. I would really rather be on track, running laps that I know that I'm fast enough to run good laps, to be faster, right? And I had a damaged car even before it was crashed, but I was still out there getting laps, and we were going to whittle down at the repairs as we were doing fuel stops and tire stops. The damage that we had was only aerodynamic. It just slowed us down in the straights. We were 10, 15 kilometers per hour slower in the straights, but that was it. So we had a good chance at having a really good result despite, a little bit of damage. But the other team decided they were going to wreck us. They decided that they were going to put us backwards into the wall, destroy our rear wing, destroy the rear end of the car, damage the alignment, damage the suspension. We had major repairs needed. And 14 minutes of repairs when everybody else is still running at full tilt, full pace. That's not on. That's not right. You know, I think it's time to consider. I'm not going to say that we need live stewarding. I'm not going to say anything like that, but I'm going to say it's time to consider whether or not people have the right mindset for endurance racing and iRacing right now. That people should realize that when you're 6 hours into a 12-hour race and you've dedicated the, the majority of your weekend to one sim race that says, this is a special event, this is important to me, I have a lot of fun doing it, you don't want to be crashed out. So don't crash out other people because it's going to come back to you. And it's not a promise that I'm going to do it. It's a promise that somebody in the community is going to do it.